Well, hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Can we get a little more excitement? I don't know if you heard, but Kash Patel was confirmed right before the James Show started. New head of the FBI. James, what kind of nerd would be interested in this? Oh, you'll be interested in this. Kash Patel is one of the guys that the CIA and FBI spied on. Kash Patel he's one of 43 people who had their phone records leaked to the FBI where they're trying to get something on him. Kash Patel is the guy that once Donald Trump got into power, they turned around and did the digging to find out that the Steele dossier was not only was it false, but it was funded by a group funded by Hillary Clinton's campaign, and then also that there were FBI agents who lied on the FISA court warrants. So Kash Patel knows where bodies are buried. Kash Patel has already been in there, and since then, well, you know what? Couple of pieces of context before I play you this audio clip, because there's one audio clip that everyone's been circulating of him that's about 2 minutes long that sort of sums up his feelings about the FBI. But if you want to know how good this pick is, go to his Wikipedia page, because you know how trash Wikipedia can be when it comes to anything political. You know, super reliable if you're looking for whoever's the king of the Ostrogoths in 483, but anytime political happens, it goes off the rails. So listen to this. First off, his real name's Cash App. Isn't that kind of cool? Like Cash App, but there's a Y in there. Over the last 4 years. Here he is on some guy's podcast I didn't recognize, but whatever.
Then we need to decrease what I call government creep with personnel. The FBI's footprint has gotten so freaking big. And the biggest problem the FBI has come out of its intel shops. I'd break that component out of it. I'd shut down the FBI Hoover building on day one and reopening the next day as a museum of the deep state. And I'd take the 7,000 employees that work in that building and send them across America to chase down criminals. Go be cops. You're cops. Go be cops. Go chase down murderers and rapists and drug dealers and violent offenders. What do you need 7,000 people there for? Same thing with DOJ. What are all these people doing here? Looking for their next government promotion, looking for their next fancy government title, looking for their parachute out of government. So while you're bringing in the right people, you also have to shrink government.
So massive government reform.
Yeah. You got to work with Congress to eliminate the billets. This is one of the things we did when I was deputy DNI. We got to DNI and I was like, okay, what do all these people do? We've got the CIA, so why do I have analysts doing the CIA's job here? Why do I have a floor of them? Like, give me a good answer. I don't know everything. I don't know a lot. But if you can give me an answer that satisfies their existence, I'm all in. Well, we just have our own people. Okay, well, now we don't. And we went to Congress and zeroed out a bunch of billets, and they hated us for it.
That's Kash Patel. Anyone else excited? Anyone else excited about that? Anyone else excited about this guy who was persecuted by the FBI is now going to run the FBI? Here's the last 30 seconds of that.
We went to Congress and zeroed out a bunch of billets, and they hated us for it.
Why? Why would Congress hate you for that?
Not Congress, the public. Congress is like, great, you saved us money. You're the only agency that returned money this year because we didn't spend our entire budget. We were literally funding seats with no humans in them for years. And what the government creep that I was talking about is these agencies go to Congress every year. And again, this is why it's a thing of decades. I need 5 more seats here. I need 10 more seats here. Okay, you keep doing that. How's that going? Oh, we'll fill that seat next year. We're in the process of, interviewing people for that section. And it keeps, no one returns money. It's the biggest fiction in government that you can't return money. Every agency and department that I've ever worked for, when it comes to the fiscal end of the year, they're like, go on trips, go spend money. What? Just give it back to Congress. We can't do that.
All right. That's your introduction to Kash Patel, a guy who has a little more depth of knowledge here from Young Voices. Connor Vasile is back on the James Show. Connor, Roseanne Barr, immediately after the vote, tweeted, "Cash me outside, pedos." Your response?
Well, all I got to say is about time. It's been a month now. He should have been sworn in a while ago. But hey, better late than never, I have to always say.
Yeah, and I think he's making some great points about how the FBI doesn't even need an intelligence apparatus that is covered by like 4 other agencies already. And because he mentioned the CIA, the NSA does it too. We already have the intelligence apparatus that are built into our military, you know, the army and whatnot. So yeah, actual for real cuts. Will it actually happen though?
I mean, that's the whole problem, right? What we have now in terms of budget for the federal government, we have a use it or lose it system where they have their budget, and if they don't use it, they're going to lose it, and then the next year they're not going to have that amount. So they basically dug a hole for themselves where they need to keep producing this waste and this fluff in order for them to justify their huge bloated budgets. So now, you know, that clip that you just played with him on that podcast, you know, it's all well and good. I would love to see him cut down on the budget, cut down on these superfluous positions that are in play right now. But hey, maybe I'm just a little bit impatient, but I want to see more from this administration doing more to basically cut down permanently on government and bureaucratic waste, as opposed to just, you know, signing executive order after executive order.
Connor Vassell, can I hit pause, hold you through the break, and talk to you a little bit more in about 4 minutes?
Sounds good.
All right. Connor Vassell is going to continue with us from Young Voices. Kash Patel, right before the James Show started, confirmed as the new FBI director. And look, you don't have to have a wealth of knowledge about it. We'll explain what could be happening coming up next on the James Show. If you got to jump in with your reaction, I'd love to hear it. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. We're continuing with my guest, Connor Vasile from Young Voices. Top story, Kash Patel has been confirmed as the new FBI director.
Catch me outside. How about that?
Before we get back to Connor, though, I want to remind you that we are having a station event for it's our sister station, KLIF. But anytime Brian Kilmeade's coming to town, we're going to kind of piggyback on that. But yeah, the guy from Fox and Friends is going to be at Community Beer. February 26th from 6 to 8 is the official time. You probably want to get there a little early because it filled up last time, so we're in a bigger venue. But he's going to do a little 2-hour presentation there. I think they're going to simulcast it on KLIF like last time, but that's not on the website. For more information, you can go to klif.com, you can go to wbap.com, or you can go to communitybeer.com. Okay, Connor Vasile, back to Kash Patel here. The concern they have over here on the Wikipedia page, or if you go to certain other news outlets, is that he's being branded a conspiracy theorist. But when you go and look through the things that they're accusing of being a conspiracy theorist about, pretty much all of them have turned out to be true. So he's one of those guys, Connor.
Yeah, it's pretty surprising, whenever the state and the whole ecosystem's calling you a conspiracy theorist. I think that's a good little indicator that you're onto something.
Right. So he's the list here is he's part of the deep state conspiracy theory. I don't know if we could prove the deep state exists any harder than we can in the last 3 weeks.
Oh, exactly. I mean, we can obviously have a debate on how deep it is. I mean, there's really not much thought going into whatever they're doing, especially in the past 4 years. But in terms of a swamp, definitely we've had it. And hopefully, with him being sworn in, it will quickly change, but we'll have to see.
Well, we're looking for some things to be released. We're looking for some transparency. We're looking for what happened with the supposed pipe bombs on January 6th. We're looking for the Epstein client list. We're looking for the Diddy list, if he can get his hands on that. I mean, a lot of what we're looking for is not just action, it's transparency.
And that's the biggest issue of all, right? I mean, even when they said they were going to disclose the JFK files, the MLK files, and all those, there's a part of me that thinks they're going to be heavily redacted in order to preserve, as they say, quote unquote, national security. So at the end of the day, with the amount of bloat that we've experienced with our government in the past few decades, transparency is key. But hopefully these people will finally put their money where their mouth is and provide it to the American people.
Do you think that we'll see the Epstein list?
Part of me says no,
because that's the FBI's investigation, right? They're the ones who have it.
True, but behind closed doors, who knows what sort of deals or what sort of conversations they're having? I mean, for the benefit of everyone, that list should be disclosed and made transparent to everyone. However, once again, this is how our government works. We have no clue exactly what they're talking about behind closed doors, and only time will tell, unfortunately.
I think I'm using that as my litmus test on whether or not this is going to be a successful change of the guard in D.C. or just some minor tweaks and the rest of the inertia of the deep state's going to continue. I think I'm really looking for the Epstein list to break the pattern.
Exactly. I mean, we're going to see if this is actually a true shift, a revolutionary shift, or is this just a subtle little brand change, right?
Yeah, and also built into this, again, all the Republicans voted yes to confirm, except for Lisa Murkowski from Alaska and Susan Collins from Maine. What are with these two?
Well, I think they checked off the wrong box when they put their party affiliation down. But hey, with rhinos, I'm not really surprised at this point in time.
Right. I know we don't have a whole lot of listeners in Alaska or Maine, but if we did, I would ask, why can't y'all primary these ladies out? They are terrible when it comes to these very crucial votes on so many of these other issues. All right. Well, Connor Vasile, what do you think? What do you think is the second biggest story coming out of Doge these days?
Well, right now, I know what's going around like a storm is Elon Musk is flirting with the idea of giving us $5,000 in the mail, each and every American, which I hope that's just for some PR stunts, because that would be ridiculous, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, Are we sure that all of America learned last time we got a whole bunch of free money, the inflation that came after it more than ate up the little bit of money we got?
Unfortunately, in the land of politics and imaginary dreams, the attention span of the American voter, unfortunately, is very, very short. But that being said, Doge is out there to basically shine a light on all the corruption, all the bloat, on all the billions of dollars that have literally went missing, right? And all the audits that have failed over the years, Pentagon being one of them. So I think they need to make their bed first, Doge I'm speaking of, before they start making all these high-flung promises. Now, once again, this might just be a 4D chess, PR move just to get the legacy media tired of reporting on Trump. But at the end of the day, they're talking a lot, which is okay, but I want to see some action on the ground too.
Yeah, my litmus test in past years has always been, will they balance the budget? And that still stands to reason. I just, even after all this, I don't think we're going to get there. We have like a $2-something trillion deficit, and they talk about some, big cuts here. There's $145 million there. There's $4 billion over there. Like, are we even going to balance the budget?
It's funny that you mentioned that, sir, because today I just had my new piece published with the American Thinker on how much bloat we have in the government and how it's actually about time we may be able to scrap the federal income tax for a better system. But that being said, the federal government receives trillions of dollars, literally trillions of dollars every year from various sources, including our taxpayer dollars. Most of it goes to God knows what. Now, Trump has been cutting down on that. However, what people fail to remember is that Trump is not your run-of-the-mill Republican, okay? He's not a conservative by any stretch of the traditional sense. So in terms of balancing the budget, despite the amount of revenue the government has every single year, that's a tall order. However, hopefully within a year or so, if they actually do these budget cuts and these program cuts properly, hopefully we'll see a little positive flow in that sense.
All right. If you want to hear a little more of that, check out Connor Vasile's piece on the American Thinker. The swamp is slowly draining. AmericanThinker.com. Connor Vasile, thank you very much for being on the James Show again.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Appreciate it, bud. If you have any hot opinions on Kash Patel being nominated, if we're going to see the Epstein list, are we going to get rid of the income tax, anything Doge related, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Coming up next, special guest Corby Davidson from The Ticket to promote, of course, ticket stock, but also the crazy history of the name Jalen. That's coming up on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, I'm ecstatic to have my next guest on because I've been a big fan of his since even before I was in radio. But now he's working down the hall at what is literally the major market station of the year for the entirety of America over on the ticket. It's Corby Davidson from the Hardline. Welcome, Corby.
What's up, man? Thanks for having me.
So you blew my mind last week because you told the story of the name Jalen. And when you started that story, I think you were trying to walk us all through a path, and I followed it right down the row. First thing I noticed is I didn't know anyone named Jalen when I was growing up. The first time I remember anyone being named Jalen was, I guess, Jalen Rose from the Fab Five. But there's a reason for that.
Yeah, I mean, apparently, which this is so weird, but back in the whenever the Fab Five became a thing, and we learned that all their names, and you heard the name Jalen Rose, I didn't think anything of it; that it was too abnormal. But apparently, he's the first Jalen on the history of the planet.
Okay, so we don't have a sports audience. So the Fab Five was this year. The University of Michigan had 5 freshmen that started. They were all amazing recruits, and that was what, 1993. Something?
Yeah, early 90s, yeah, somewhere like 91, 92, something like that. Yeah, so, they became household names. They were part of the pop culture scene back then, and they go to the national championship game. There's 5 18-year-olds all starting, and Jalen Rose was named. His mom named him after his dad, whose name was Jason, and his uncle, whose name was Leonard. And so she combined those two and named him Jalen. And apparently, literally, that's the first Jalen to ever grace the planet.
That's the first one I remember. So that's where it came from. This is the first Jalen ever. Before 1993, through 10,000 years of recorded human history, the Babylonians even, there was no Jalen until this guy. But that's not the situation anymore.
No. So, immediately after, I think in 93, the name popped up on the baby name register of, they've got this list of popular baby names. That dates back to, I think, the turn of last century. And obviously the name wasn't on there because the name didn't exist. And within year one of that guy being, in the consciousness of Americans, it popped up into the top 250. And then it slowly climbed. Jalen did. I think it reached its peak when Jalen was in the NBA in 2000, playing for the Pacers. And it reached in the top 75 or something like that. And so there were all these kids at the time in the early 2000s named Jalen, and now they're everywhere. And again, it's so bizarre to think that this name didn't exist because now it is the most popular name in the NBA. It's the most popular name in the NFL. It's the most popular name in college football and the most popular name in college basketball.
I think it's the most popular name on the Cowboys, too. If you go to the Cowboys roster, go to DallasCowboys.com and just pull up the players roster. If you count everyone, even in the practice squad, 4 Jalens.
How many are there?
Say it again?
How many are there on the Cowboys?
4.
Then yeah, for sure it is.
Yeah, and I don't know half these guys. Jalen Brooks, Jalen Tolbert, I know him. Jalen Dalton, Jalen Cropper. 4 Jalens on the Cowboys.
Yeah, and again, it came out of nowhere, and now here we are. But yeah, he was like he said. I was watching some weird interview a couple of weeks ago when he was talking about this. I'm like, I have never heard this story in my life. I had no idea the name didn't exist until he was born. I didn't know any of it. I didn't even because you don't really think about it. Yeah, there's a lot of Jalen's out there. Jalen just won the MVP at the Super Bowl. Jalen
Hurts, yeah.
Jalen Hurts, Jalen Brunson, who used to play for the Mavericks. You don't think about it being, a newer name. I feel like it's been around forever, but it hadn't been. It's only been around for a couple of decades, and now it's tearing it up. And most recently in the NBA, I think there are 12 that have entered the league in the last 3 years.
Good Lord. Okay, so are you looking forward to, at least here in North Texas, there may be a surge in the name Corby, perhaps?
No.
You've been on radio for 25, 30 years, whatever, around here.
Yeah, well, I think that they'd already be around by now then, that. I probably would have been the same thing as Jalen. They start naming Corbys around 2000, 2001 or something like that. But I've heard of a lot of dogs named Corby because people tell me that they named their dogs after me, and I think that's more appropriate for me. I'm
pretty
fine
good
with Corby. I'm fine with Corby being a limited name in the human race, but I like it to be populated in the animal race, in the dog race more.
That's quite a compliment, actually.
Right,
so,
I know.
are you at the Plano Event Center?
Yeah, I just pulled up. Yeah, we have ticket stock, our big weekend hoo-ha out here that we have every year, and yeah, I'm pulling up right now.
So ticket stock tomorrow from noon until something or other?
Tomorrow, yeah, noon until 7, and we have Dirk Nowitzki coming out from 6 to 7 and talking about Luka and all that good stuff, and then Barry Switzer on Saturday and lots of other DeMarvian Overshown from the Cowboys and lots of other people. So, yeah, it's our big weekend, and it's super fun and all that good stuff.
All right, well, you blew my mind with the Jalen story, so thanks for sharing it with my crowd. I appreciate it. Corby Davidson from the Hardline on the ticket.
We'll talk to you later.
Hey, do you still do ever the like the repeater or the interrupter or the overcusser? I haven't heard that in a while.
So I can't do the overcusser anymore because the FCC cracked down on it. They said it was too close to it. Yeah, so I can't do that. But yeah, I do the other stuff. I've done. I haven't done the what was the God? I can't remember
the corrector or the repeater.
The guy that corrected everything or that repeated everything. Redundant man. That was it. Yeah,
is that what it's called?
But yeah, I've done the interrupter.
Oh man, I used to do that to homeless people in New Orleans, and it was only funny about 5 times, and then it was just mean.
Exactly. It's mean-spirited.
All right. Thank you again, Corby Davidson from the Hardline.
Dude. We'll see you.
Literally the Marconi winner for the major market station of the year. Not the sports station of the year, the major market station of the year. They'll be at Ticket Stock tomorrow and Saturday. Good stuff. All right, coming up next, Doge updates on the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. And Doge continuing to rampage through D.C. One of the parallels that you see, it feels like a little brother just bothering their older siblings. You get that? Like, of course, what they're doing is the right thing. We wanted them to go in there and go line by line through the budget and kill the carbon footprint coloring book for Uruguay and all these obvious waste of taxpayer dollars. But also there's a tinge of enjoyment to it, to where for your entire life, these people have just been getting off, taking your money, spending it however they want, no accountability. People go in, they make $174,000 a year. They leave a decade later worth tens of millions of dollars. And you've always known there's something wrong with that. You've always known that there's something untoward. That someone's skimming some of that money. They're not just making really good stock picks all of a sudden. That doesn't make sense. So now that the axe might finally drop on some of these people, you're not wrong to enjoy it. You're not wrong to find a little bit of satisfaction. I don't celebrate anyone losing their job and not being able to feed their kids and not knowing where their next check's coming from. But for most of these people, that's not even what they're facing there. When you've gotten laid off from a job or fired for cause, I don't know how good of an employee you've been, but whenever you've lost a job, did you ever have 8 months of checks coming after that? So no, not only is this, a necessary evil, but it's the softest landing that you could possibly imagine for a common worker in any setting, a grace that none of us have ever had. So pardon me if I'm not overly sympathetic to those that are losing their jobs to Doge. But there's a couple of responses to this that I think are important here that I want you to keep an eye on. And we'll really just listen to the show. I'll keep an eye on it for you. But, I played this clip yesterday from Hannah Hickman. She was with the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau. And she's saying it's illegal to fire her. For those of you who didn't hear yesterday, Hannah Hickman.
I think it's so important for American people to understand what's happening. Their government, their watchdog agencies, the people who go to work every day to fight for them are being fired illegally.
All right, hang on. She's doing the upwards accent thing. Like Stewie from Family Guy explains it well.
Talk like this, where everything has a question mark at the end of it, with an upward inflection at the end of every sentence.
Once you hear that, it's hard to not hear it going
I think
forth.
It's so important for American people to understand what's happening.
See?
Their government, their watchdog agencies, the people who go to work every day to fight for them are being fired illegally in what is just a wholesale dismantling of entire agencies.
Good.
Now, you're a lawyer, and you know firsthand that a lot of this is happening illegally. Explain what we're missing here and how this can happen if indeed what is happening is illegal.
It's a great question, Kira. Civil servants have a lot of protections under the law, and we're only supposed to be fired if our performance falls short on the job. So what has happened is that the administration has fired us. We call it layoffs sometimes, but that's not what it is. It's an illegal firing.
Oh, my goodness. All right. You're being fired for cause. Because the government's too damn big. That's why. That's the cause. We can't afford it. It's unsustainable. We have 36 trillion causes right now. Hannah. And even if that is true, can we just go ahead and change that law first? It's illegal to fire someone once they've been hired by the federal government. What kind of ridiculous fantasy world are they creating here? What kind of unaccountable bloat is going to necessarily be built in a system that you can't fire employees? Oh my God, if that's true, let that be the first thing we change. But it has been very disappointing over the last few years how we've seen some judge will pick up even the weirdest and least likely causes, the biggest stretches in the world, and make it happen. That's how Donald Trump went the first 78 years of his life without being convicted of a crime or even really charged with a crime. But all of a sudden, what do you have, like 92 counts? He had 4 different trials in 4 different jurisdictions, a couple of civil suits thrown at him too. Really, he's got to go to court 6 times in an election year, in year 78. 92 counts. It's just not believable. But you found a judge to pick it up. You found a judge. I don't even think you have to shop that hard. All you got to do is just find some guy that's definitely getting paid off. They know who they are. They've got the ledgers. They know who they're paying.
New York City.
Right? Go there. Find a sympathetic judge. And so I'm watching this one. I'm watching this like I'm watching to see if Kash Patel, who just got confirmed to the FBI right before the James Show started, if he releases the Epstein list. That's my litmus test over there. My litmus test for Doge is, do we balance the budget? My litmus test over here in this Hannah Hickman situation, is there going to be a judge that stops all these firings and says, I'm sorry, that's illegal. You can't fire anybody. Because it's a ridiculous position to be in. You mean that we're in a human endeavor called government with a $3, $4, $6 trillion government budget. How many thousands, millions of people do we have to hire? None of them are mistakes. None of them we can just fire. Oh, unless there's cause. Oh, really? So no one ever hires too many people? I mean, if that was the case, we would still have telegraph operators. You can't get rid of that. I speak too soon. That's probably what they're using to process your tax return right now. Do you have a litmus test on what you're looking for before you will declare Doge a success? Because all this sounds good, and hey, they've cut a bunch. You can go to doge.gov and look it up. There's a running tally on the debt clock as well on how much money they're saving. But they haven't balanced the budget yet, and there's a few things that I want to see before I start declaring this a victory. Balanced budget, Epstein list. Can we start there? What's your litmus test? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. What will you have to see before you declare Doge a success? All right, Dierks Bentley is coming to Dos Equis Pavilion May 30th. It's his Broken Branches tour. He's also going to be with Zach Top and the band Lola. Get tickets at livenation.com, or you can win a pair of tickets from us. Text the word broken, because it's the Broken Branches tour. Text the word broken to 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227 for your chance to win a pair of tickets. It's Dierks Bentley, so he's going to sing a lot of songs about getting drunk and driving a truck. He might be drunk on a plane. He might be sitting on a beach. He won't know what he's thinking, but he's still got a lot of leaving left to do. And that's all the jokes I can cram in. That's like my Dierks Bentley repertoire. All right, coming up next, Doge is growing stronger and stronger, but how will it affect small business owners and you self-employed people out there? We'll talk with Jason Taylor about it next on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Yeah, let's go. Welcome back to the big show. I find it amusing how after, 3 days of cold, all of a sudden, I'm used to it. I feel adapted. I just bundle up like Yukon Cornelius in the claymation Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and walk to Jimmy John's, and I just, bundle up, suck it up, shut up. Yeah, it's cold. That's what happens. It's amazing because, you probably heard me whining about it earlier this week. I hate the cold. I still hate the cold. But I would still also rather it be 105 than whatever this is right now, 30 degrees, just awful. But keeping an eye on the news, Doge is rampaging through D.C. We're having a fun session, just to put it completely sarcastically, going on in Austin right now. And with all the rule changes and stuff that happen with any legislative session, it's always good to keep a focus on our backyard. How does this affect you? Well, Jason Taylor's coming back on. He's my buddy from Code Launch, and he helps people with startups and small businesses and whatnot. And have y'all noticed anything over there that affects small businesses or people who are looking to start a business?
Well, thanks for having me back, James. Doge is definitely rampaging, and there are going to be something like 200,000 people eventually laid off, looks like, over the next 3, 4, 5, 6 months this year from mostly federal government. And eventually they're going to enter the workforce in the private sector, almost certainly most of them. So these could be hiring opportunities for small business owners anywhere, especially businesses. I would think that if you sell a product or service to the government, you might be able to hire someone who could help you succeed in that effort.
Yeah,
so this could be an opportunity.
Yeah, economically speaking, that's a real positive way to look at it. For all these people who are getting let go, the people you see crying into their phone, I just lost my job, I don't know what I'm going to do. Well, if you have some marketable, valuable skills, then you're going to be one of the people that's now contributing to the economy instead of taking out of the economy. Because anytime you have someone who is requiring more tax money and more resources, whether it's actually taxed or just printed, go to someone who's not putting in, then the pie gets smaller. But in this situation, these people go out, find gainful employment. The pie gets bigger for all of us.
Yeah, and unemployment did go up this week, this morning, about 5,000 people week over week, which is right around 219,000 people filing unemployment. And what I'm seeing is that's going to rise to something like 250,000 around that number week over week later in the year, and maybe even in the spring. And that's enough of a rise to get the Fed's attention, which may then dial back the rates a little bit more. So this could be a healthy thing over the long term as we merge these people back into private sector employment and maybe lower our rates.
Jason Taylor, do you see the firing of thousands of staffers at the IRS, generally speaking, is that a good thing or bad thing for small businesses?
Well, that's definitely a good thing. I mean, small businesses, they pay quite a bit of the taxes in this country, and dealing with the threat of audit and always feeling that fear like breathing down your neck is something that we all went through every year. And just knowing that you do your part, they're going to leave you alone most likely and deal with actual criminals will be a comforting thought. I think give a lot of small business owners more confidence.
I don't think I like the sound of these Doge checks, though. They want to return some of the cash that they're saving to taxpayers, and one of the numbers
the Doge dividend, yeah, right.
Yeah, but if we all get a $5,000 check, that kind of defeats the purpose, doesn't it? I mean, don't we all remember the inflation that happened last time there was free money during COVID?
Want that either, just suddenly land in everyone's back pocket and then completely book every plane over the summer to every nice destination all at once. But I think they're trying to remind people that this is your money to begin with. And what we're trying to do is find places it's being spent irrationally and wastefully and fix this problem. And, I've never seen anything like this in my life and watching politics for 40 years. This isn't just hope and change. This is actual change. Welcome to change, everybody. This is it.
Right. Actual change. Different than hope and change, hoping for change. Well, look, Code Launch is a business that crosses borders. Y'all do an event in Canada. You do an event in Mexico. You do events here. You had your big championship in Dallas just like 3 months ago.
Yes, sir.
Have the tariffs had any effect on your international aspects of your business?
No, not at all yet. These are tech startup founders that we help by helping them build their products and then launch them and get funded. And they're at the stage where they just want to gain some traction, gain the attention of investors, and build a small team that can build a disruptive product. And they're far away from having the fear of tariffs impact them. And also, these are mostly technology services businesses, so they're not going to be producing a product that's going to cross borders and be subject to tariffs.
All right. Someone has a tech startup. They're interested in Code Launch. How do they get involved?
Well, they just check out codelaunch.com. We started taking applications for all 3 of our competitions, which could lead you to the World Championship November 12th here in DFW. And so any startup founder or hopeful startup founder can apply right now for the U.S. competition, the Canadian competition, or the Mexico founder competition at codelaunch.com.
Yeah, I went to the finals last year as at Gillies, and it's like Shark Tank, except it's just for tech people. So developers get matched with investors, and then there's a big stage presence, and you get to hear about all the cool ideas that people are coming up with and look forward to it. And it's a good time. I was really impressed. Codelaunch.com. This is Jason Taylor. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, James.
Now, what do you think? You want to get a Doge check? Do you think that's a good idea? Should we get Doge checks? Did we not all learn that free money falling out of the sky causes inflation far worse than the value of the free money you just got? You know, one of the reasons why you go to the grocery store and it's 30% more than it was in 2020 is because all that free money. But I see a whole lot of people online, some of them who even identify as Team Red, saying they want their $5,000 check. Do you? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Should we get Doge checks? We'll talk about it next on The James Show. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Boy, some people really seem to be triggered by Donald Trump yesterday posted a mock-up of him, like a painting of him wearing a king's crown. He said, long live the king. And he's just trolling you people, okay? Don't get so upset. They're like, isn't this cringe? I'm like, well, I mean, kind of, but it's also less cringe than vagina hats. If you're not embarrassed for that, I don't want to hear about his megalomaniac fake time cover. But the real question is, it's been floated that we get a Doge dividend out of D.C. Elon had mentioned it. Trump said $5,000 is kind of the number we're tossing around. What do you think? 800-288-9227. Do you deserve a Doge dividend? Let's go to Corbin in Mesoforny. You're on the James Show. What do you think about the Doge dividend, Corbin?
Hi, James. Well, I, for one, I think like anybody else would love a $5,000 check. But besides what I want, I think it is reasonable to believe that it would cause inflation. But correct me if I'm wrong. The reason it caused inflation last time was because this money was printed out of thin air to give to us, whereas this money was already ours, like the one guy had already said.
No, that's not the deal.
Is it not?
No, so what we're doing is the money that we're cutting now, because we don't have a balanced budget, is money that would otherwise be printed. Now, instead of just taking it off the books, if we instead took the money that was going to be printed and made it into Doge checks instead of the I don't know, something woke in the other side of the world, they still have to print that money.
See, now I think that's where the confusion lies then, because that definitely would cause inflation.
Yeah, and look, there's the big difference there, because if we had a surplus in DC and we turn around and we handed out that money, that would not be inflationary. But until we get the budget balanced and then start making cuts on top of that, it's inflationary.
Okay.
All right. Well, take it easy and me so forny. Thanks, Corbin. Do they call it that there, or do we just call it that everywhere else to make fun of them? Because if I lived in Forney, I would be making those shirts already. Dan and Terrell, you're next up on WBAP. What do you think about the Doge dividend? Oh, he just hung up as soon as I was going to him. Well, that's unfortunate. Let's try this one. This is David in Royce City. You're on the James Show. What do you think of the Doge checks?
Hello, James. Hey, you know what? I'm kind of against it. I'd let us see it go to the deficit and get us out of the hole and maybe save on some property tax and Social Security tax.
My concern, I totally agree with you, by the way. My concern is, though, that there's a lot of people who just hear that they're going to get money, and so they think, yes. And so, I mean, we've seen this, not just during COVID. You know, everyone loved getting the checks then. I was like one of only 4 people saying, please do not send us money. That is so dumb. You're going to ruin our lives. I think I remember my first handout from the government like that being from George W. Bush. However, his was different. In his first year of the presidency, they ran a surplus. I know that they like to say, well, we hadn't had a surplus since Bill Clinton. Well, technically, George W. Bush's first year, we had a surplus. Yes. And I think I got like $218 back or something. It wasn't very much, but that was like a non-inflationary because it wasn't deficit spending surplus. And if we were going to check under those circumstances, I would be for it. But until we balance the budget, I think it's a terrible idea, because I think we all just learned that the price you pay through inflation is going to hurt a lot worse than the chunk of money that you get.
Exactly. In my perspective, maybe a little bit different because I'm retired firefighter. My wife, retired teacher. We're not wealthy by any means, but we have planned, and we have a comfortable life. But at the same time, my kids and grandkids, I would rather see a balanced budget. And like you, we got the COVID check. I cashed it. Didn't ask for it.
You better cash it. You're screwing yourself even harder. Now you got to deal with the inflation, and you didn't even get the free money. So no, I don't blame anyone who cashes it. But
yeah, we did. But I'd vote against it. In fact, I'm a send a text or letter to my congressmen and senators to do that. I vote against that, not because I don't want it, but because I think money misspent is how we got here.
Well,
so let's still do it again.
Right. And let me go ahead and put down my position a little further, because I don't want y'all to think that I would prefer to get a check as long as it's not inflationary. My actual personal preference is I don't want to get a check, especially if it's deficit spending, or even if it's a surplus for the year and we get it and it's not inflationary, until we pay down the national debt. We have $36 trillion that we owe people. Then and only then will I call for stimulus checks or a Doge dividend. So three things. It can't be inflationary, meaning it can't be done with deficit spending. And if it is done with surplus spending, do we have a national debt that money should go to first? And then once that's paid down, then we can have the conversation. I'm not even sure if I would support it then, because silly old me keeps thinking, well, if we can save some money, we could do it like Harvard and Yale, and all colleges pretty much have an endowment. You know what I mean by an endowment? I went to ETBU. They have a big endowment too. You just put millions and millions up to billions of dollars in an account, and then you live off the interest. And what if we had just saved a bunch of money that we could have an endowment in DC where they lived off the interest instead of taxing us? Anyone ever even thought of that? Everyone not only get off the credit card, do what retired people do, where you save money. This is what you're doing in your 401k right now, or your IRA. You're piling up money. And then one day you're not just going to go spend that down. You're going to live off the interest. You're going to come up with an income plan. You're going to annuitize it. And then boom, you have money that just keeps coming for the rest of your life that doesn't end. And it's not shaky. It doesn't matter what the market does. It doesn't matter what other external factors there are. We should be aiming for that, instead of trying to give ourselves $5,000 before we even begin to balance the budget. But I don't know. I'm kind of proud of you guys. Y'all are a little more mature than I expected. I get a lot of money grubbing people in shows past. Walter, Grand Prairie, you're next up on the James Show. What do you think about the Doge dividend?
I think it's a bad idea. I really think that all that money that they find should go to pay off the national debt.
All right. Well, I agree with you, and you agree with me. You have anything to add to that?
No, I'm like you. Once we get the national debt paid off, if we have surplus, then yeah, you can cut out checks.
Are you concerned about our neighbors who aren't as economically sane as you and me?
Well, it's going to be worse if they issue checks. Like you said, it's going to cause inflation. It's going to be.
It'll be worse. It'll be worse in
Yeah.
a year or two. But immediately, you're going to get yourself a lot of good PR. You're going to have a lot of happy people. This is a politically popular move, even though from our view of statecraft, it's the wrong thing. So, I mean, that's just one of the downfalls of sharing the country with a bunch of people who aren't as economically astute as us, Walter.
Yeah, I understand that too.
All right. Well, good stuff. Thanks for listening out in Grand Prairie. What do you think? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Should we get Doge checks? Coming up next, we're going to talk about an adjacent topic. People struggling with credit debt. Doesn't that sound familiar? Not the country, families. We'll talk about that. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Should we be getting a Doge check? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Got some hot callers lined up about that. But real quick, there's, this pops up on the comment section under a lot of these Kash Patel stories, but it happened on the live stream that's happening now. If you follow WBAP on Facebook or X, you would see this. But some fella said Kash is a DEI hire, and then his next comment was, so DEI for MAGA, but none for you. No, see, we don't believe in MAGA. Kash got the job not because his skin color or his ethnicity or nationality or other immutable traits. It's because he's awesome, because we like what he says about the FBI needing to root out corruption. It's because he was like a deputy director of national intelligence, and he already rooted out the Steele dossier and backed up and was a whistleblower about the FBI agents who lied on the FISA court documents to spy on Carter Page and during the 2016 election. And after he did that, he was one of the people who 43 people had their phones hacked by the FBI. I'm sorry, it was leaked. It was just an accident. So he's not only done the right thing, been in the position before, exposed it, and then took the suffering of their retribution because he was correct about them. And then on top of that, he's been called a conspiracy theorist for saying things that turned out to be true. Like the vaccine doesn't prevent the spread of the disease and masks and lockdowns are worthless. No, he's been proven correct. He got there based on merit. See, it's a myth that we only want straight white men to succeed. We are merit-based. So as long as you're awesome like Kash Patel, we don't care. And he's Hindu, by the way. He's a brown Hindu. Don't we get credit for being open-minded? How come it's not celebrated if he's a DEI hire? I thought you said DEI was good. Wouldn't you be clapping for that? Like 18 logical paradoxes in your criticism there, sir. All right, back to the phones. Brian, Fort Worth, what do you think about the Doge dividend? Do we deserve it?
Well, I think, like you and a lot of your other callers, it should go to the national debt. We should dig ourselves out of the hole. And I appreciated and understand your explanation of how this money would be printed and it would increase inflation. But I thought this money would be coming from the money we're clawing back from USAID and the city of New York.
Right, but that's printed money.
It is printed money, but that money, it's inflation impact. Now it's going back into the national treasury, and then they're releasing it to us. So that wouldn't cause inflation to go up again.
Well, no. It doesn't go back to the national treasury if it's already deficit spending. Like if your checking account is already overdrawn and you were about to spend some money on a PlayStation 5, but someone stopped you from spending money on a PlayStation 5, does that money go back into your account?
Well, no, not in that example. But I thought this money already went to USAID, and now we're getting that money back from it. So.
Some of it's clawed back, but even if it is clawed back, it's deficit spending. Most of this is future spending that's been canceled. If it's already we've already sent money to Belarus for a butt darts coloring book or something, then if they've already spent it, we can't claw it back. That's already done. That money's already been printed. The inflationary effects have already happened. But just there's some weird economic or monetary theory in here, but. I hope that explains it better.
Yes, it does. And I believe Kash Patel is definitely merit-based for that position.
Oh, of course he is. Of course. You don't have to worry about it with us. We're not the ones who do quotas or even care. Of course we. Yeah.
Last thing, my wife is very liberal. Well, she's liberal because I'm so conservative. I look left and see her. She loves your show. Keep working on her. Okay? Don't give up on her.
The ladies... they don't understand how much this stuff we talk about on talk radio affects them, and we do a really bad job making this less masculine and more inviting to women. So thank you for reminding me about that, Brian.
Yes. All right. Love your show.
Thank you, sir. Ron in Arlington, you're next up on WBAP. What do you think about the Doge dividends?
Yeah, good afternoon, James. Thanks for taking my call. I think we ought to take it. I think we ought to distribute it to the tax-paying population. I look at it a different way, as not as free money, but a tax refund. For the years that these kind of payments have gone out there using taxpayer funds, that the taxpayer had no clue how it got wasted, how it got fraudulently distributed, it's money going back to them. Plus, it helps the general population, tax-paying population, to kind of get over the next 3 months, because it's going to take a while for the Trump agenda to have some effect before any prices start rolling back, because nothing happens overnight, which explains why President Trump is going at such a rapid Texas Motor Speedway pace to get everything rolled out. Is it's going to take some time. This will help the American households, I believe, to maybe afford those little more expensive eggs, maybe pay down on their own little credit card.
Okay, so
I don't think this little bit is going to affect the national debt because that is so high, it wouldn't even make a drop.
So what you're saying is true, but only in the short term. Just like we all experienced when we got our COVID checks. Me and Miss Parker actually paid off our credit cards with that second one. Hey there. We have 6 kids. So when the round of stimulus that rolled around where everyone in your house gets $600, we got $3,600. So we paid off our credit cards and then hunkered down. But you know what? Our credit cards are higher now than when we paid them off because our groceries went up 30% and our car insurance went up about 40% and the cost of just about everything else we spent it on. So in the short term, you're correct. This is a good chance for people to get ahead and buy eggs and whatnot. But for the rest of your life, you're going to be saddled with the pay cut that comes with inflation. And because this is deficit spending, it will be inflationary just like it was 4 years ago under COVID.
Well, I'm hoping that everything that is going to be on the Trump agenda is going to offset that where the impact would be negligible.
Well, we need about 1.5 trillion more in cuts from what Doge has to see before it won't be inflationary for us to get some of that back.
I have a strong confidence that Mr. SpaceX is going to find that, if not more.
Well, here's the ugly truth. We're not going to be on a long-term fiscally sustainable path until we either eliminate or severely cut Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. The unfunded liabilities are, it's just mathematically speaking, we can't cut the Department of Education or even the defense enough to cover all that on a long enough time scale. And when I say a long enough time scale, that boundary is getting close. The Social Security Trust Fund is going to run out in about 6-7 years, and then everyone's benefits going to get cut by about 22-23% and only go down from there. And for people my age and younger, we're going to be paying into Social Security our entire lives, and we're going to get nada. So the sooner we can just go ahead and wrap that whole mess up, the better, in my opinion. But I don't think a lot of people are ready for that conversation, because every time I have it on the show, I get emails for days. How dare you take my money? That's my money. I paid it in. Well, it's already gone. You already spent it on yourself. You spent all the money that your parents left you in the trust fund on yourself. You spent all your contributions on yourself, and you spent all our contributions on yourself too. You're not going to be looked on very highly by future generations, people, if y'all don't get this turned around quick. 800-288-9227. What do you think? Do we deserve those checks? Will that cause more than harm than it will help? We'll continue this on The James Show. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. We're just talking about Doge over here. If you want to jump in, 800-288-9227, because the question is, Doge checks, had the idea have been floated that we all get a $5,000 check or so. I'm against this. I think this was bad. I think we all should regret getting that free money during COVID. Seems to be one of the big drivers, all those stimulus packages of the huge inflation here. I think it'll be more harm than good. But I notice the public out there, when you read in the comment section on social media, pretty split on this one. What do you think? 800-288-9227. Before I get back to the phones, coming up in 6 days, Brian Kilmeade's going to come to town. The guy from Fox and Friends. Yeah, he's also on our sister station, KLIF. He comes on right after Clayton and Sybil's morning show. But he's coming to town. He's going to do a couple hours of a presentation at Community Beer. That's at Commonwealth and 35 down here in Dallas, right before the 35-183 split. And then afterwards, hang out, have a beer. You can meet, I'll be there. I think Garrett's going to be there. Miss Parker will be there. Clayton, Sybil, Brian. We're going to try and get some other people you notice there. Some of my regular guests from the James Show I've invited, and a handful of them will be there. So if you can make it out by 6 o'clock, come on down. It'd be cool to meet you. For more information, we have it on our headline rotator at the top of WBAP.com. Tim, Grand Prairie, what do you think about the Doge checks?
I don't think we should get them. I think that any money they save or can be brought back into the government should be applied to Social Security to actually fully fund it. Then anything going after that would go to the national debt. But no, I don't think anybody needs those checks for $5,000.
You don't think it should go to the national debt first?
No, I think they need to fully fund Social Security first, because they took money out of Social Security. They need to put it back and get that funded so that's secured for years to come, and then the national debt.
No,
we're worried about Social Security running out real quick. Why wouldn't we want to fund that first?
Well, because it's going to run out anyway. Like, even if you threw $1 trillion at it, that wouldn't even take up 1 year of benefits.
That's just my opinion. They need to take care of the Social Security.
Well, listen. I invite you to go look at the actuarial tables for Social Security, because as it stands right now, we spend like $1.4 trillion just in benefits on Social Security every year. Now, as we get older and we live longer, we live to age 90 or 100 these days, the pyramid is getting overturned to where when Social Security, how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
At 66.
Okay, good. Then about the time that you were born, we had 16 people paying into Social Security for every person taking money out. That's down to 1 to 2.1. So we're about to be flipped over to where we don't even have 2 workers per Social Security recipient. It's not a sustainable thing. Now, from your point of view, that would be great for you if we could throw in maybe another $1 trillion here and there and make it last for another 10 or so years, because then you'll be able to get all of your benefit left before the Ponzi scheme collapses and nobody gets anything. So that'd be really good for you. But for people my age and under, you're screwing us even harder.
Also, I'd like to see them take off the caps on Social Security so that everybody pays on their adjusted gross income.
Okay, so right, so a lot of people, if you don't know, if you make over like $180,000, it moves every year. You don't get Social Security taken out of that. Now, that is less than 1%. That's like the top 1% of income earners. That's not going to be enough money anyway, because it's like when you see the Jeff Bezos and the Elon Musk and the people at the highest end, the evil robber barons, they're not getting that from direct payments, in income. Most of their wealth is the capital gains that comes from the stock and the assets that they own. So like Jeff Bezos' actual salary is something like $84,000 from Amazon. You're not going to get a dime more from him, but you'll get a whole lot more money from, like the principal at the high school, or someone who's like a superintendent in the fire department. I don't know what rankings are, but you'll hit the middle class and upper middle class, and you won't get any of the super rich guys by lifting that earnings cap. And even if you did, The math makes it unsustainable. We're living too long. The retirement age is way too young. There's not enough people putting in. We didn't have enough babies 20, 30, and 40 years ago, and we're not having enough babies now. It is unsustainable. It is a Ponzi scheme. You can maybe extend it for a few more years, but it will collapse. This is no different than the Bernie Madoff situation, except we are all forcibly coerced into participating in it against our will.
I agree.
Well, no, you don't agree. You want to keep it going. And listen, let me put it like this. Tim, I don't think I'm going to change your mind here, but I might change somebody's mind. If you are, like, let's use the Bernie Madoff Ponzi scheme. You know, people were paying in money. They were promised to get 12% return. They were paid off by the people who were putting new money in. And once the people pulling money out outpace the money coming in, then it collapses, right? But if you're like the week before it collapsed, you discovered it's a Ponzi scheme, and you went and took all your money out before everyone else found out, you are now participating in the scheme. You understand that? You are now an active participant. You're not an innocent bystander. You know it's a scam, and you just went and did something immoral because it would benefit you, even though it would screw everyone else who's forced into the Ponzi scheme even harder, because there'd be less assets that get dispersed. You know, whatever's left over when the thing collapses, it gets dispersed to whoever's owed. You are now an active participant in the scam against the younger generations.
So how do you fix it so that the other people that are actually paying into it now, it's not going to draw anything? Where do they get their money back from?
We're not. You don't understand. We're screwed. So how about you don't make us pay into it for another 20 years for something that we're not going to get anyway? Look, the difference, there's no good solution. Either you're going to screw the younger generations and cut it off now, or you're going to make it last and rope it up for another 20 years, and then we won't get it, and you're going to screw us even harder. That's where we're at. For people in the 40s, 30s, and 20s, we're screwed already. Are you going to screw us harder? Then keep it going. That's your choice.
Well, they've got to come up with some solution that takes care of both people.
Shut it down. The solution is, while we still have money in the trust fund, shut it down, disperse it among the recipients, the people who are depending on it, and maybe they can annuitize it or somehow try and live off of that the best they can. But this is a tough discussion because there's not a pretty answer, and we're all screwed. It's a Ponzi scheme, unless you die in the next 6 years before it collapses. We're all screwed. 800-288-9227. That's a technical economic term there, Garrett. I learned that in the textbook. We're all screwed. 800-288-9227. Outlaw Music Festival coming to Dos Equis Pavilion July 5th. This is the one with Willie Nelson and Bob Dylan. I want you to win some tickets from us. Text the word outlaw to 800-288-9227. Outlaw to 800-288-9227. Coming up next, we're going to talk with America's Future Series David Hamilton about foreign policy, Ukraine, and all that fun stuff. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Let's go. Woo, Doge has got us talking today. Because not only are we just enamored with all the great cuts and firings that Doge is doing through D.C., now there's a new wrench that's thrown into the discussion, the idea of us getting Doge dividends. Trump floated the idea of a $5,000 check. I don't know if he's serious or this is a negotiating tactic or he's just putting his wet finger to the wind. But generally speaking, I'm against it. And with the exception of a couple callers, seems like a lot of people agree with me. It doesn't sound like a team red thing, does it? That's not free market economics. You're not supposed to go to the public treasury and start feeding off of it. That just makes you just smaller versions of the parasites that we're trying to kick out. But a lot of people don't see it that way, and that's all right. Maybe you can explain it to me. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. What's his name? LeBron or LeBaron? LeBaron, I'm sorry, in Houston. You're next up on WBAP. What do you think about the Doge checks?
James, I think all that money should go to pay our debt down. I think we need to take care of that first. I like the idea of having tariffs on our imports to start paying that down. That has to get down to zero. And then the second thing would be is to end the deficit spending. That has to stop. I think those two things would go a long way.
Yeah, well, inflation would stop if we would do that. And I hear a lot of people say that, but we don't hold our politicians' feet to the fire. For all of our lives, except for 3 years during the last two Clinton and the first George W., we've run deficits, and everyone just keeps returning the incumbents to their seats. So most people aren't serious about this.
Well, that's true. But perhaps things are changing because, in my opinion, the mainstream media is no longer the main media. It's, radio talk shows, streaming shows, those avenues.
The James Show? Yeah.
Yeah, the James Show.
There you go, LeBaron.
You're the new media.
Yeah, I'm a new media on an old platform. Well, I appreciate it, LeBaron. I feel you too. First thing, we got to get rid of the deficit. Next thing, we got to get rid of the debt. And for all the talk about getting rid of the income tax or whatever, yeah, I'm in favor of that. Oh, really? We can just fund the whole government off of what? Tariffs? Yes, that's what we did before the income tax. We didn't have a big issue with property taxes. We didn't have the income tax. We didn't have all these cell phone taxes and fees and getting hit by a death of about 1,000 paper cuts. Not only did we still have a standing army, not only did we still have roads and bridges before the income tax, tariffs used to give us so much money, and the government was so small and required so little resources that the states would get us, we would run a surplus and the states would get money back. I mean, I just read some book I was reading last year. Michigan scooted up its transition from being a territory to a state because if they did it for the end of the year, they'd get one of those state dividend checks. Our government used to be so small, we ran a surplus on tariffs only. And that's when we rose from being a backwater agricultural bunch of farmers to the hyperpower of the world. So it worked then. I think it would work now. Who's next? Glenn? Glenn in Ohio. Oh, you've called before, haven't you? Welcome back, Glenn. What do you think about the dope?
I haven't called you, but
we have another Ohio listener. Who's the other Ohio? Is it Gary? I think it's even a G name. Anyway, go ahead. Welcome to the James Show.
Thank you. I lived in Plano 34 years. Now I live in Utah, and I'm trucking across the country. I'm 68, should be retired, but no.
All right.
Listen, every day has been Christmas for 30 days, and you're trying to ruin one of the days because that's our money. I want it back.
It's not.
It sure is. It was illicitly taken from us.
It wasn't.
And listen, if you don't want it, there are so many people you could help. You got kids. My son's trying to get a house, and look at the rates. Look at the market. It's just really tough. And people are having to charge groceries. In principle, I agree with you, but right now, man, we need a shot. We need a Band-Aid. So many people could use that check. Just me, I would pay down my credit card because the rates are just crazy.
How did that work out under COVID? Is it easier to buy groceries now that we got all that stimulus money under COVID, or did the inflation make it harder?
you can't blame that on COVID.
I can blame it on the printing of money in our response to COVID. Yes, I'm not blaming the disease. I'm blaming the monetary problem where you injected a whole bunch of deficit spending.
Yes, sir, you're right, because the Fed
That's what this
is
would do.
Inflation. They control it. They are it. Not you and me, not a tax refund. They control it because they don't even have to print money these days. They just slide over to a computer, a few clicks on a mouse, and they create billions and shove it out to a bank.
Right, and I don't think anyone means like literally print. It's just a metaphor for creating. Most of it. We understand it's monetizing the debt. It's a better verb to use because it actually feels tangible. But I was under the impression that we all understood the cost, the inflation, far outpaced the $600 stimulus checks we got under COVID.
5,000 isn't going to ruin the country. We're really in desperate need. Okay, and you got to remember, there's no correlation between revenue and spending. Okay,
should be.
It's yes, I agree, but there isn't. That's why we're running a $2 trillion deficit this year, and our interest alone is $1 trillion.
So is that a bad thing?
In the long run, no. In the long run, I agree with you, and that is why I am willing to trust President Trump and Elon. If they think we deserve this and it will help many American citizens, I think we should let them do it. I mean, in the long run, why are there 400 federal agencies? That's crazy.
Right. So,
guys,
do you realize the duplicity in this phone call, though? Real quick, Glenn, do you realize the duplicity in this phone call? You say in one sentence that the debt and the national deficit, the national debt and the deficit are hurting us. On the other hand, you say we need to give people $5,000, which would contribute to the debt and deficit, which you already said was bad.
No, they're only returning a portion of the money they're saving through Doge to us.
But if it's deficit spending, they're not returning the money. They are going to put less on the credit card than they otherwise would. There's no money to be returned.
Yes, sir. Yeah, but I'm telling you, in this moment, so many people are struggling. And look, eggs are $8 a dozen.
Hey, emotional appeals do not override the. It is. People are struggling is an emotional argument. People are going to because my argument is if you do this, people are going to be struggling even harder going forward. It'll help them for like 3 or 6 months. We just went through this during COVID. The reason why, look, when we had 30% inflation over the last 5 years, that is a 30% pay cut. So if we get $5,000 now, would you rather have $5,000 now if it means you get a 30% pay cut for the rest of your life? It's not like you just get a one-time 30% pay cut. If you were making $100,000 a year in 2020, now that buys you $70,000 a year. Was that worth it? Or did you lose more than you gained because of the inflationary reaction to the printed money that was behind the stimulus checks? Because that's what I see happening here. And just because Trump and Elon says that this might be a good idea, I'll be happy to be the first one to tell them, hey, I love what you're doing with Doge. I love what you're doing with the border. I love what you're doing on so many of these other fronts, but you're wrong on this one. I have no problem saying that. 800-288-9227. I think some people just want to check. 800-288-9227. What do you think about the Doge dividends? I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey, sports fans. James Parker here for the Prize Picks app. Tonight, American Pride is on the line. They're in the finals in the Four Nations Hockey Tournament where they have to play Canada again. And you know how much fun they had last time they played? Can the Americans pull off another victory? Well, I made a lineup that has a couple of our players in it. That's right. If Matthew Tkachuk can get more than 2.5 shots on goal, and then I turned around and I took the goalie for the other side, the Canadian goalie, and I pick less on his 26 saves, more or less. I picked less on him. So I thumbed up the U.S. and I thumbed down Canada, and that's one of my lineups. And I did something I hadn't done before. I have 2 lineups going at the same time. Yeah, I wanted to. I'll admit, I wanted to put Luka on my team again. It's so sad. I miss him so bad. But it's that easy. It's sports you're already watching. Add a little bit of spice to it, right? It's like when you put chili powder on your popcorn. You ever do that? So download the Prize Picks app, make a lineup of 2 to 6 players. You can win up to 1,000 times your money, and you can do it with my money too. Use promo code WBAP with your first $5 play. You get $50. Promo code WBAP gets you $50 with your first $5 play. You can add a little bit fun to the hockey championship that's happening tonight. Prize Picks, run your game. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. You know, it's not difficult to get people interested into a topic when $5,000 hangs in the balance, so I can understand why this is a hot topic, the Doge dividend that's being floated. Should we get $5,000 checks from the money that's been cut from Doge? I say no, and I'm looking for people who disagree, because I've already had a lot of people say, no, you're right, we need to balance the budget first. Then after that, we maybe need to pay down the debt. And then if we're just running a true surplus and there's money that's sitting on the books and not deficit spending, okay, maybe then we can talk about returning some of that to the people. But we have more negative consequences that came from getting free money under COVID that a lot of people remember. And I think they don't want that to happen again. However, let's talk to someone who disagrees. Do we have some disagreeing people over here? Well, here we go. Let's go to Donald. Donald in Buffalo Springs. You're on WBAP. What do you think about the Doge dividend?
Okay, I do disagree with several things you've said today, but the one thing I want to address right to start with is the man that you were talking with about Social Security. The numbers you were giving and quoting, I want you to think about that. The numbers you were quoting about the number of people that are going to pay in, we're going to screw y'all youngsters.
Yes.
Those of us that are old that you were talking about, those numbers you're giving, those numbers can't be true if Elon Musk is telling the truth and we got millions of people that's collecting Social Security that don't belong there. Once they rectify all of that, then you might have some true numbers to tell. But I do want to make sure we understand those numbers are not fact that you're pointing out there. I do think that man's right. They need to fix the Social Security. I do not think they need to hand out $5,000 checks to anybody. It didn't do no good the last time. It won't do no good now. But I do want to fuss about that Social Security because I'm one of them just about to get it. And I've worked my butt off all my life to give it into Social Security. And I feel like those of us need to keep getting it. And if you want to talk about somebody annuitizing their money, you youngsters got time to annuitize your money if you know you're not ever going to get it. But to just put us out to pasture, that's a whole nother thing, guy. We need to look at what we're doing, and I'm pretty sure once we figure out all the damn people that are
a couple things here.
Don't belong.
It's not putting you out to pasture if you have to go under the exact same retirement plan every human being did throughout of all of human civilization up until FDR. You're not getting cheated if you have to cover your own retirement. That's the most normal thing in the world, and that's what should be expected under a free market capitalist constitutional republic. On top of that, you don't understand how big the numbers are. When you say there's millions of people who are fraudulently getting checks, that's cool. The average check is under $2,000, but let me go ahead and round it up. So if we have 1 million people who are getting checks and we cut all that up, we're saving what, $2 billion per million people that are getting checks, right? That's how the math works out.
For those numbers you're giving right there, yes.
Okay, and so we're paying out about $1.4 trillion in benefits. So you're scratching not even, 0.2% of the outlays would be wiped out if we got rid of those for every million people that we got off of the fraudulent paycheck system.
I hear you.
Yeah, so for every million people that we take off, that'll save us $2 billion, and I guess it'd be $2 billion a month. So $24 billion. There you go. So $24 billion. So now we're up to 2%. That saves 2% of the outlays. That's not going to do it. That's not going to get it done.
Like I say, we need to see what the numbers are and where they really are before we compare things. And that's what I'm getting at. But I just disagree with what your numbers are because I know they're not correct. If it's straightened up, then we'll go to it. But to answer your other question, you're right. We do not need to collect any free money from the government. Look, we need to work for our money.
I don't delight in telling you this. I'm not happy that the numbers aren't going to work out. It doesn't matter what we think or what we feel, though. Look at the demographics. This is an unsustainable Ponzi scheme. And just like every Ponzi scheme on a long enough time scale, it's going to collapse. Now, I understand how, from your point of view, the most important thing that would benefit you and your family the most is if we can just find a few savings to keep this rope-a-dope going for another 10, 20 years until you're done. But that's what's good for you. That's not the right thing. That's not the moral thing. That's not what the math says. That's not what ethics says. That's not what economics says. That's you taking advantage of the system. You're just a very small version of the cronies that have been digging at the trough this whole time.
we didn't take advantage of nothing. We paid it in ahead of time.
No, you did. I'll say it again. Maybe you weren't listening earlier. From the point of view of the younger generations, you boomers are going to take the trillions of dollars that the previous generations left you in the trust fund. You will spend all of that on yourself. You're going to take all of your contributions, and that's all going to be spent on yourself. And you're going to take all the contributions from the people who are still younger than you and working and putting into the system. That's all going to be spent on yourself, and it's going to run out, even by the government's own admission, in 2033. So you will have spent 3 generations worth of contributions on yourself, and then turn around and tell me that I'm screwing you?
The way you put it with the last man that was on there was incorrect, and that's what I'm telling you.
Well, look, we may be quabbling over a couple $1 billion here and there, but when we have a $1.4 trillion outlay, that's not going to be enough to sustain. And I wish it would. I don't want you to have to find a new way to go through your retirement. It's not a fun conversation to have, and it doesn't make me look like a good guy to tell you. But I didn't steal your money. I'm the guy going to the bank and opening the vault and telling you it's already gone. Now, what are you going to do? Are you going to go steal money from other people and give it to you to make you whole? Because now you're just passing. It's like the law of conservation of government screwing. You can't unscrew it. You can only pass along the screw to someone else. But, man, that was a terrible explanation. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. You guys on hold with your Doge comments. Hang on just a second. We'll get back to you if you're just joining us. The idea was floated about $5,000 Doge checks, and we were just having a nice intellectual economic discussion here on whether or not that will help or hurt more in the long run. Do you need $5,000 now, or do you need cheaper groceries, I don't know, for the rest of your life? 800-288-9227. I'll get back to your calls after my next guest because Kristen Roberts is coming back on. And I have some questions here. AI, keeps advancing more and more every day. It's becoming more and more part of our lives. And as an intellectual property attorney, this brings up a whole new round of questions. If I make a picture on AI, who owns that? Do I own it? Is it joint ownership with me and whatever app I made it with? Like, what are the intellectual property rules behind that, Kristen?
Well, thank you for having me. And to answer your question, it kind of depends. So the lawyer answer, right? It kind of depends. No, but really it does, because what you put into the AI, so the information you plug into the AI, that may be protectable, but what comes out of the AI may not necessarily be. So, for example, if you ask for a picture to be generated, but then you start to tweak it and you make it more yours, or you take the picture that's generated by the AI and you personally make changes to it, those changes that you make could result in something protectable, but anything that the AI actually does or generates for you is likely not going to be protectable.
So if I put in an input into an AI and it generates a picture just wholly out of nothing, that's owned by the AI app?
Well, not necessarily owned by, because under the laws currently, anything that AI generates is not protectable. So it's really just sort of
public domain.
Anybody can use it at that point. But what you've put in, those specific parameters, generate me or create a picture for me of, someone's dog, or, a picture of a dog with, a paintbrush in its mouth, and that dog picture comes out. You may not necessarily be able to claim ownership of the picture, but those prompts that you put in, those wouldn't have come into existence without human involvement. So it's really the human involvement piece of it that creates what we know as intellectual property.
Okay, so what about, I'm thinking of a situation, Kristen, where a guy who works for a TV station, he updated their website. He got caught using AI articles. Instead of writing them for himself, he would get AI to write his articles and throw them up there. And they had mistakes in them all over the place, so he got busted pretty easy. But is that the same rules there? Is he not allowed to use AI and put his name on it? Is that some sort of level of fraud?
I mean, it depends on who is asking you to post the articles. If it's just you running a blog, you can use AI to help you write your blog articles, but you're going to be taken to task by your consumer base if they find a bunch of inaccurate information and things that you haven't verified, because you're just sort of sloppily relying on AI to help you. But AI is a tool, and like any tool, you have to use it in order for it to get better. And that's really where we're seeing a lot of the issues come about, is in the use of the tool. In order to make the tool more efficient, it needs to be trained. So how are we training this AI, and what are we using to train it? And that's really where we're starting to get into some of this intellectual property infringement, stuff.
Well, if you do own the AI engine and you're the guy training it, it seems like you could write a whole book with this thing and still get all the intellectual property rights as if you wrote it yourself.
Well, not necessarily, because the actual output itself is not going to be protectable, but all of the ideas and all of the input that you're putting into it. So, for example, let's say you write the manuscript of the book all yourself, and you feed it into AI to clean it up and edit it for you. Well, the resulting book is still your content, but the pieces that were edited and done strictly by AI may not be. And that's really where we're wondering where the law is going, because it hasn't been 100% decided yet.
What if you train an AI to decide when to write something, and the AI decides when it's going to write it, what subject, what's going to be in it? I mean, would this AI now be eligible for like royalties for books sold? Like, who would get that money even?
No, royalties and intellectual property rights are reserved strictly for humans. So it cannot be owned or, done by anything that's not considered a human. And there's case law on that, actually. There were animals in the past that did artwork. And
the gorilla one, wasn't there a Coco lawsuit?
Yep.
Oh, see, I remember stuff. I read a book
Look at
before.
you.
Yeah.
Look at you with your knowledge and everything.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know, the Coco, the gorilla that learned all the sign language, made some paintings, and there was a court case on who gets the money if those paintings are sold. Which, I mean, you can probably get a lot of bananas for that, but I don't even know how it worked out. I guess it worked out against the gorilla.
Correct. So the court found that no animal and nothing that wasn't human, so anything that wasn't a person, could have an interest in intellectual property rights. And so the same thing, by extension, can be said about AI, language learning models and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I figured that's how the laws will probably stand until the robot revolution comes. Then they'll want their money. Kristen Roberts, how do we find your work outside of WBAP?
You can find me on my website, trestlellaw.com, TRESTLELAW.com.
All right. Thank you very much for helping us understand a very complex subject.
Thank you.
But it's a fun one because I mess with AI pictures all the time. All right, coming up next, I'll return to you guys on hold. I'm talking to you next, so don't go anywhere. We have a couple lines open. If you want to give me your hot opinion on the Doge dividend, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Oh, I'm so sorry to be the first one to tell you this. 17 minutes ago, Zach Martin said he's retiring. Zach Martin's been with the Cowboys for the last 11 years. One of our best maybe our second best offensive lineman, maybe the best offensive lineman. If you're not a football fan, it's not a big deal. If you know, you already know. I don't have to explain it to you. Very disappointing stuff. Back to the phones, though. We're talking about the Doge dividend. I'm going to try and squeeze everybody in here on this last segment because y'all are nice enough to hang out. Jack in Arlington, you're on WBAP. Your thoughts on the Doge dividend?
Doge. We should keep the money within the government to pay the debts. I'll tell you what's wrong with the whole situation here is nobody's looking at the whole picture. The whole picture is we raise so much money in the United States that we feed the whole world. And all we've got to do is balance the budget. Why is it that this government cannot balance the budget and actually save money? Because they're all crooks. And then we got to look at the people who want to collect the $5,000. They're just like them. They're exactly like them. They don't care about the debt. They just want it now, just like the government.
Ooh.
There's a lot of solutions. Let's just take all the money that these illegal investors did who are in the government and pour it back into the government and put everybody on a capped salary and a capped amount of income they can make on investments. And then we'll solve the whole problem. And we need to audit every single account that comes out of the Treasury money.
You know, that's
everything.
Jack, thank you. That's exactly what I was trying to say to another caller 2 segments ago. I was like, you're just a little version of the politicians who go up there and feed at the trough. You're not going to get as much, but you're happy to get your money.
Keep voting them in as long as they keep giving them the money.
Right. So no matter the negative effect on everyone else's grocery prices or whether or not subsequent generations are going to get anything at all, you're just doing what's good for yourself. And so when you ask, why can't they balance the budget or why do we have a big debt? Because that's not what's good in the best interest of the politicians.
Right.
Partially because
if we just balanced it, everything would be fine. Social Security would be fine.
Right. But part of this also, Jack, is our fault. And I don't mean you and me. I mean most of the people out there who don't think like us because they don't mind that their elected representatives votes for all these deficits. They don't mind as long as they get theirs, or maybe they're just indifferent to the whole situation. But a big problem is the voters don't hold these people to account. No one has lost their job for voting for all these debts and deficits. All the Republicans and Democrats, or not all of them, but most of them, over 80% of them in every election, the incumbents stick around. There's no negative consequences to it because we haven't imposed any negative consequences to it. You're making some great points, Jack. Thank you, sir. This is James in Mesquite. Hey, James in Mesquite, you're on WBAP. Your thoughts on the Doge dividend?
Well, what I want to take a look at is the difference between the $5,000 check and the money that what came from the COVID. First of all, Trump didn't want to give a whole lot of money out. It's like $300 or so per person. Nancy Pelosi demanded some things, and she had Trump over a barrel. Nobody would get anything, or she'd get these ridiculous giveaways, including complete pay for unemployment for weeks. In fact, they still haven't spent all the money that was allocated for COVID. So what that does is increases the pile. It's like you say, printing the money metaphorically or actually. That does, as a guarantee. In fact, top economists have always said that's the main cause of inflation. Yep. This is a different thing because what this does is take money that would already have been spent and takes not all of it, but 20% of it and sends it off to taxpayers. So, if anything, if you can cut back by 80% of this waste and fraud, you're going to decrease the inflation rate, not increase it.
You'll decrease the inflation rate, but it'll still be positive. It won't be as high as it otherwise was, but it still won't be zero. It'll still be inflationary. It will still have negative effects on your grocery store prices. So great. Over the next 5 years, we'll have 25% inflation at the grocery store instead of 30%. I would like to go to 0%, and that requires a little more fiscal sanity. Sorry to cut it short. I just want to squeeze in more people. DJ, Fort Worth, WBAP, go.
Yeah, so I'm surprised Bernie Sanders isn't all over this $5,000 handout. I mean, we're looking at a universal basic income here. I mean, if we could get out of debt and have a $2 trillion sovereign wealth fund like Norway, then we can start talking about handouts. But we've got to get out of debt. It's simple math.
Well, I like the way you word that, too, because so many people on Team Red say that they're against socialism and all other facets of life. But they love Social Security. They love their Medicare. They love it when money's taken from other people and given to them. They just don't.
Handouts are great when they're my handouts.
We are guilty of that on Team Red, just as bad as Team Blue when it comes to these entitlements, sir. Thank you. Sorry I didn't get to everybody. I tried, but hey, we have a whole nother show coming up tomorrow, so you can come back for that one. The I Want My 80s Tour, featuring Rick Springfield, coming to a music hall at Fair Park July 20th. Special guests John Waite, Wang Chung, Paul Young. Get tickets and information now at livenation.com or text Rick to 800-288-9227. Rick to 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. Go check out the podcast when you get a chance. Mark Levin's next on News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.